Hello folks, Rob Dreemeyer here. Welcome to Broadway Barfly. Today we're talking about the show How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, and we're making a classic gin martini.
If you're a theater fan who loves a great cocktail, click that subscribe button because Broadway Barfly is the channel for you.
How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying opened on Broadway in 1961. It starred Robert Morse as J.Pierrepont Finch, an ambitious young window washer eager to climb the corporate ladder and succeed in the world of business. He does so with the help of a little book titled How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. The show is based on an actual book by the same title that was published in 1952 as sort of a tongue-in-cheek spoof on how-to manuals. The show was put together by more or less the same team that created Guys and Dolls about 10 years earlier. We recently posted a video where we talked about Guys and Dolls and we made a Dolce cocktail. If you like chocolatey after-dinner drinks, you're going to want to make sure to check out that video. The producing team of How to Succeed was Cy Feuer and Ernest Martin. Frank Lesser wrote the score, Abe Burrows wrote the book and directed, and Bob Fosse choreographed. And these men turned How to Succeed into a big hit. It ran on Broadway for 1,400 performances. The show has also enjoyed two successful Broadway revivals over the years. The first was in 1995 in a production that starred Matthew Broderick. His leading lady was played by Megan Mullally, who would soon go on to do Will and Grace. And when she left the show, she was replaced by Sarah Jessica Parker, who would soon go on to do Sex and the City and also marry Matthew Broderick. The second revival was in 2011 and starred Daniel Radcliffe, who's better known to many as Harry Potter. His replacement was Darren Criss from Glee, and the role was eventually taken over by Nick Jonas. So How to Succeed is one of these shows that has always been a success. The original Broadway production won 7 Tony Awards, and it was also given the Pulitzer Prize for drama, which is really something because How to Succeed is certainly not a drama. It's actually a laugh-out-loud comedy, sort of a satire of corporate America in the mid-20th century. It attacks corporate ethics, or the lack thereof, the nepotism and sexism, and it does a lot of its lampooning with the score in songs like The Company Way, Happy to Keep His Dinner Warm, and A Secretary is Not a Toy. Our cocktail reference is found in the song I Believe in You. At this point in the show, Finch has worked his way all the way up to Vice President of Advertising. But the book warns that this is a precarious position because in order to succeed, he's going to have to come up with a brilliant business idea. And Finch, being a little shady, steals his idea from his nemesis, but what he doesn't realize is that he's being set up. The scene takes place in the executive washroom. Finch is looking at himself in the mirror and he's giving himself a pep talk with this song, I Believe in You. And he has no shortage of compliments for himself. One of the lines he sings is, "You have the cool, clear eyes of a seeker of wisdom and truth, yet there's that slam-bang-tang reminiscent of gin and vermouth." And of course that's a reference to a gin martini. And I think we can all agree that there's not a cocktail to better epitomize this Mad Men era than a classic gin martini. The exact origins of the martini are unknown, but it's generally accepted that it evolved from a cocktail called the Martinez, which emerged on the West Coast in the mid to late 1800s and is thought to have first been served in a hotel in San Francisco. The Martinez is also a gin and vermouth combination, but it uses sweet vermouth instead of dry. The martini as we know it today exploded in popularity during the Prohibition years, and at that time a martini was 2 parts gin to 1 part vermouth. And I suspect all of that vermouth was needed to mask the flavor of some pretty questionable bathtub gin. That ratio has changed considerably over the years, and today the official IBA recipe, that's the International Bartenders Association, their official recipe calls for 6 parts gin to 1 part vermouth. And I know there are bartenders who use even less vermouth than that. Some will only rinse the glass with it and just throw it out. Noel Coward famously said that the only way to make a martini was to fill a glass with gin and to wave it around in the general direction of Italy, which of course is where vermouth comes from. The martini may be the only cocktail that has its own vocabulary. A dry martini means less vermouth is used. A dirty martini means olive brine is added. A perfect martini means both sweet and dry vermouth is used. The varieties of martinis are endless, and that's not even counting all those cocktails that call themselves martinis. There really aren't. Things like chocolate martinis, lemon drop martinis, espresso martinis, lychee martinis. The list goes on and on. If you can think of it, a martini can be made for it. We've made a number of those cocktails here on Broadway Barfly, both in our videos and for social media. On Valentine's Day, we made a chocolate-covered cherry martini. Over the Christmas holidays, we made a sugar cookie martini. And we did a show and cocktail pairing video where we made an apple martini and talked about its really interesting history, and paired that with a conversation about the musical The Apple Tree, so you'll want to make sure to check out all of those videos. But today we're making a classic gin martini, so let's get down to business. I'm going to show you how I like to make a martini for myself. I'm by no means an expert, but I can offer a few tips on making a good martini. The first is to make sure that it's really, really cold. And to help that along, we're going to serve it in a chilled glass. I had my glass in the freezer, and when I took it out, I added some ice to it to keep it nice and cold until we're ready for it. The second tip is to use good gin, and also use a brand of gin that you really like. The flavor profiles of gin can vary greatly from brand to brand. When people tell me they don't like gin, what they're usually saying is that they don't like that juniper flavor that reminds them of pine sol or something. But just because someone doesn't like that doesn't mean that they should write off gin altogether. It just means they should try another brand, something that has more floral or citrus qualities to it. It might make all the difference in the world. So we're going to start with 2.5 ounces of gin. We're going to use 1/2 ounce of dry vermouth. And then for our third tip, we're going to add a couple dashes of orange bitters. This suggestion was given to me by a bartender who really knows his stuff. He said, think of those bitters as the cocktail seasoning. You really shouldn't know that it's there, but if it isn't, you're going to miss it. And so we're going to add some ice to our glass and give this a really good stir. We will serve this in our chilled cocktail glass. And for the garnish, there are typically 2 traditional garnishes. A twist of lemon, of course, and also an olive. And we're going to be using olives. That's what I prefer. And in particular, I'm using blue cheese olives. If you want to make a Cadillac of a martini, use blue cheese olives. And we're also using 3 olives. Superstition says that you should garnish a martini with an odd number of olives because an even number is bad luck. I have no idea if that's true, but why tempt fate? And there you have our Broadway Barfly version of a classic gin martini. Just doesn't get any better than that. So until the next time, cheers.
If you enjoyed the video, why not give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends? Feel free to leave your comments and click that subscribe button because there's a lot more Broadway Barfly to come.